scientific death.
In the fall of 1814, the St. Giles Rookery was one of London's most densely populated and destitute slums. To understand the depth of this poverty, we have to look below street level. Families who couldn't afford tenement rooms above ground were forced into cramped, dark cellar dwellings. On October 17th, Mary Banfield and her young daughter Hannah were sitting down for tea in one of these basements. A few doors down, a grieving family held awake in their cellar for a 2-year-old boy. These residents lived their entire lives at the absolute bottom of the socioeconomic ladder, physically trapped beneath the rapid expansion of London's industrial elite. Looming directly over those tenement roofs was the Meux and Company Horseshoe Brewery. Despite the shadow it cast, the slum depended on the brewery. It provided jobs, and more importantly, it produced cheap, high-calorie porter ale, a drink so thick it was often treated as liquid bread by a starving working class. To meet the immense demand of the era, the brewing industry engaged in an arms race for scale. As a result, Meux and Company built aging, 22-foot-tall wooden fermentation vats right against the property lines of residential housing. The brewery owners extracted immense wealth from mass production, while placing the extreme physical risk of structural failure entirely onto the impoverished community living in the blast radius. That risk materialized on the afternoon of October 17th, when a 700-pound iron hoop snapped off a 20-year-old vat holding 160,000 gallons of fermenting porter. A supervisor noticed the broken iron band. Instead of shutting down the tank for a vital safety inspection, he dismissed the failure and allowed production to continue. This cross-section shows the liquid generating massive outward hydrostatic pressure. Because pressure increases with depth, the outward force at the bottom is incredibly high. When one band snapped, the remaining hoops absorbed this pressure, stretching to their absolute breaking point. This was an inevitable failure of physics, triggered by pushing aging infrastructure beyond its limits to maximize profit. An hour after the first warning sign, the remaining hoops gave way. The weakened vat violently ruptured, blasting thick wooden staves and dark liquid outward. The explosive force shattered neighboring fermentation vessels in a rapid chain reaction, instantly releasing 1.5 million liters of beer. This escaping fluid breached the brewery's brick walls and slammed into the slums. It arrived as a heavy, oxygen-starving tidal wave crashing through narrow alleyways. The basements instantly filled to the ceiling. The mourners at the wake, and the mother and daughter having tea, drowned in absolute darkness before they could reach the stairs. The very product this community relied upon for daily sustenance became an inescapable, lethal weapon. 8 people died in the disaster, all of them women and children. In the immediate aftermath, the survivors of St. Giles stood together in complete silence amidst the wreckage, listening for the muffled cries of trapped neighbors. When the ensuing legal battle began, the destitution of the victims' families stood in stark contrast to the immense wealth of the Meux and Company owners. The judge and jury declared the catastrophic flood an act of God. The brewery was absolved of all criminal negligence, and the victims' families received 0 financial compensation. To compound the insult, the brewery owners successfully petitioned Parliament to refund the excise taxes they had paid on the lost beer. The company was saved from bankruptcy, while the victims were left with nothing. Through the court's ruling and Parliament's tax refund, the state prioritized the brewery's survival as an industrial asset, leading the families in the cellars to bear the full weight of the loss alone. The sheer destruction eventually forced a technological shift in the brewing industry. Manufacturers abandoned massive wooden vats in favor of stronger, lined concrete and steel vessels. Today, high-hazard industries operate under rigorous risk assessments and strict structural integrity inspections, the exact safety protocols that Meux and Company ignored. The 1814 flood remains a case study in the human cost of rapid industrialization, a moment when a manageable production error became a mass casualty event. It serves as a reminder of what happens when the physics of high-volume production are left unchecked. When a vat fails, it isn't the owners who face the wave, it's the people living in its path.